Okay, we got a video for a set of headphones. This is a collaboration between Zeos and HarmonicDyne, and it's called the Eris. It's a 50mm semi-open back set. And it says the bass violence necessary for change. And I'm here to tell you, mission accomplished. He actually did it. This is a slamming set, and it sounds really good for what it is intended to do. Before we continue, touch on a couple things. One is, if you comment below this video and you're a subscriber, my returning the love to the people that support my channel, I'm going to pass this to someone anywhere in the world, I pay for shipping, who comments under this video and also commented under the unboxing for this video. So I'll check if you're a subscriber and then give it a thumbs up if you generally like it. And I'll ship everywhere, including Ghana, which is unusually expensive for reasons I still can't quite get my mind around. This is a very comfortable set, and it's on par with the Modhouse Audio, which is up there, and it's very similar to that set in a lot of different ways. One is they're both extremely comfortable. Two, they both have very good low end, and they're both what I would consider to be sofa sets, which means that you can lay back and listen to all kinds of genres and for a long period of time, because the treble isn't overly incisive and intense, and that's not something I'm going to lay down and listen to for 2 or 3 hours. And it's got enough low end for when I need that bass line or I need the 808 drop, it's going to be there. So like the Modhouse, it is a set that I consider a sofa set. Now, a couple things I want to talk about. One is Zeos has been around in the hobby for a long time, and he's finally done a headphone, and it's the most enjoyable collab that he's ever done of the collabs that I've tried that he's done. And he's the guy that did headphone reviews when there wasn't really anybody on YouTube, or not a lot of people, and he was the only guy that seemed like he really enjoyed music and the gear, really, for real. Whereas a lot of people seem to be in it for reasons I can understand now, but at the time, I didn't get it. Now I'm a YouTuber and I've been in it for a while, but I didn't understand that. But there was something that drew me to him. Every reviewer's got their merits and demerits. Mine is that I don't know what mine is. I talk about music a lot. My demerit is I talk too long and I get too into specifics, which is the next point. So before I move on, Zeos' best collab that he's ever done is headphones, and he's the guy that I originally discovered while looking for headphones on YouTube. So there's something that's really appropriate about all of this. Good job if he ever watches this video. That's what it says it's going to do. That's what it does, and it's extremely comfortable while it does it. And I think it's priced very, very well at $250. The other thing I want to talk about is how I come to my conclusions, because that's very important. My reference set for today is the HE6SEV2. I think I'll just keep calling it the Hi-Fi Man. It's a planar. It's not a dynamic. It's hard to drive. That's not hard to drive. Why do that? Because this is a set that doesn't have a lot of energy in the low end, and it doesn't have a lot of energy in the upper mids relative to a lot of sets. So for vocals and a lot of instruments and music that I listen to, I would consider it to be reference. But the thing that I have to do, and what I do with every single IM review and headphone, and I can talk about it with you right now real quick, is I adjust everything out to 77 dB out of every device. And everything compared to everything is done the same way, because I have autism. It's not clear when you look at me, but when you start to talk and listen and pay attention to my inflexibility and my removing of variables, it becomes extremely clear. Everybody who watches my channel knows all this, so this is like saying water's wet. But for people that don't know, because I don't do headphones a lot, and you might be watching and thinking, how do you do this? I take everything and I go to 77 dB with a 450 hertz tone that is downloaded from Media College. You can get it online, because the mids and around that range are the least likely, as compared to the bass and the treble, to be boosted or randomly cut. It might be slightly dipped, especially in headphones compared to IMs, but that is the region that's most similar. So take the device like the topping, like the shit stack with the original RME ADI and the RME Anniversary, but I didn't use that in this one, and I didn't use the splitter right here. I just used the topping and the shit stack with the RME original. And I adjusted this to 77 dB out using my tablet, and then measuring through a mic to get it through the tone to that level. And then I take a photograph of where I'm at. That's why I use that camera. It's very, very OCD and autistic, but that's the way it works. So I get this to output, because it's hard to drive, and what that is on the topping and on the shit stack. And then I make note of that through pictures, and I put that to the side. Then I take Zeos' set and I do the same thing. I figure out where, and it's much easier to drive, on the topping, and where is it out on the shit stack. And now, when I listen to this, and then I listen to this, I've got to switch because I'm not going off the splitter this time. So it's not the quick A-B switching, because I really don't even believe that that's effective, but that's a whole nother video. I take my time and I listen and I make notes, and then sometimes I think that sounds, and then switch it out, listen, and then yeah, that's the case. I have enough memory to be able to say that confident. So this is my reference set for today's video, and I think it does my library fantastic. I wish it had a little bit more meat on the bone sometimes. That's what this does right here. So now that I've told you that I've adjusted these two things and where I adjusted them at and what setups that I adjusted them on, let's talk about music. In the low end, Big Boy Killjoy, the triple drop, 38 hertz being the lowest, sounds fantastic. Sounds very, very good. It sounds like how it's advertised, which is bass violence. It actually, if you turn this thing up, you don't even have to EQ or do anything, obviously. You turn it up good enough, it's vibrating on your head with the soft pad cushy cushions, which is a pretty impressive thing to do. I can't get that on a lot of sets that have pleather, more transfer energy because it's denser padding. We learned that a long time ago in the first videos they did on this channel when we talked about the displacement and also the residual vibration that comes from just the whole chassis vibrating because of the driver transferring energy through the mounts, through the plastic, and through the ear pads. Like, you could get that, the denser the pad, the more you'd feel it. Zeos has very comfortable pads, but I can still feel the energy transferring to my skull. It's a very, very good set for that. 4-string, 5-string bass guitars, the pulls, the plucks, the releases, the ringing of the strings, it sounds a little different, and it sounds like there's a dip. And when I compare with the Hi-Fi Man, it's obvious that that's the case. But I do prefer, for the bass guitar, the replay of Zeos's, because I like that energy on stuff like Sultans of Swing. Mark's vocals, I'll talk about vocals in a second, are a little step back, but I like the musical replay better on Zeos's than I do the Hi-Fi Man on the two tracks that you're looking at right there. One is Violent Femmes and the other is Dire Straits. Now, as we move into Bonham's kick drum, dun, 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 this is a total beast. This sounds like a produced with swirling and panning effects kick drum from the fourth album by Led Zeppelin, which I think it was 1971. This sounds like I expect it to sound. Authoritative, with energy and emphasis, which makes it the iconic rock and roll history event that still gets videos to this day talking about how it was done. A lot of the videos are wrong. It does that well. As we move into the vocals, Chris Cornell, Lane Staley, Nina doing a cover of Blondie's Heart of Glass. This is where, when in comparison with the Hi-Fi Man, you can pick up an audible dip in the vocals. It's not bad, but you can pick it up. So if you listen to stuff and you're typically listening to reference type stuff, which has very flat bass to mids with subtle or maybe emphasized ear gain, depending on what your sensitivity level is, you will note the difference in vocals on this set. I don't think I'm compromising while I'm listening, because I know already through the way that the bass guitar plays that that's probably going to happen. So I wasn't coping. It's kind of what happens when you elevate bass. So I was actually fine with it. But it is something that you'll note, especially if you usually listen to stuff that's more like this and less like a Mod House audio, because these two are kind of similar actually. As we get into, so I think it does vocals well. There's a lot of other sets that will probably do that better, but again, we've really got to keep in mind what the audience intended for this is. And when it says bass violence, you know, if you can't read, you can't read. As we get into what is pretty much harmonics and overtones, which is the ending, it's the what happens when like my finger on the table for a split second is the fundamental, because that's my knuckle striking the table. That's what that is. That frequency is where that occurs. All of the residual, 80 to 90% of that, is overtones and harmonics created by that. That range of the replay, where cymbals, rides, and crash cymbals, and guitars, electric and acoustic, and pianos, and the electric versions plugged in, which we call keyboards, and all of this stuff that has a lot of energy up there, a lot of instruments that are in classical music. This actually sounds fine. This doesn't sound like some sets that have emphasized bass and then they have the piercing. You're just in a massive flying V. which even if the bass is really good and appealing, you can't listen to it for a long period of time. There was a set that was, can't remember what the name of it was, but it had beryllium drivers, and it was, God, I wrecked it a long time ago. That was a set that did bass well and also didn't fatigue me in the treble. It would be something that I would have mentioned like 5 years ago on this channel. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but I used to wreck that set because people say, I want a lot of bass. I'm okay with giving up a little bit of the mid quality, but I also don't want that sharp treble. I just want a good clean replay that I can listen to for a long period of time. And I always recommended that set, which was discontinued not long after. But a lot of people bought that and they like that. The new recommendation is going to be Zeos' set because it does that. If you want a more polished version of Zeos' set, you would get the Mod House Audio. That would be a planar, which is a little bit faster and has less in that dip range, but you're going to pay and wait for that. So as you pay up, you get more. Hopefully, that's the way it's supposed to go. So let me go ahead and rank this now. Is it a dumpster fire? Absolutely not. Hope it was free. For one person, it's going to be free. That's a commenter here. Coping is working. When it says bass violence on the side of the box, if you can't read that and anticipate what's coming and what's related to that, I don't know what to tell you. So I was never coping at any point. Competes with its peers. I've heard a couple of hi-fi man that are around this price range, and I'll point out that that one that's on my table, that yoke is different, that whole assembly, because the one that came with it was just so absolutely horrible. Go take a look at the HE6 SEV2 and look for a stock one where it's got that big fat plastic with the dense padding that is makes a hot and hard spot on the top of your head. I had to change this to make it acceptable, and then that honeycomb grill is just for looks. But the more affordable hi-fi man can be really hit and miss when it comes to quality, and comfort is kind of wild and random too, so I wouldn't really recommend a set that has this much bass and is a hi-fi man, because I don't think they have it, and also the build quality is questionable at hi-fi man at that level. So I'm not sure what its peers are that have a lot of bass and discomfort. Suggest below if you want. Go ahead. I'd buy it. I'm actually going to buy this set after I give it away because I need to have in my possession the set that I'm going to recommend to people when they say, library like yours, want a lot of bass, can give up a little bit of the mids because duh. But I want to just chill out and listen. I don't want something that's super hard to drive because I don't want a hot amp in my living room or wherever I am. I want to travel with the DAP. I can say for sure that a Canon N30LE is plenty of power at 45 steps, which is halfway. I think it's got 100 steps on it, or 90. So you're fine with your DAP. So that's going to be the set that I'm going to recommend. So I definitely buy it, shamelessly hype it. Again, over a period of time, I'm going to end up doing that because the amount of time that people say, hey, how about headphones? You don't really talk about headphones. What do you listen to with a library like yours? If I'm chilling, it's going to be Zeos' set, which is crazy. So let me go ahead and wrap up this video and say, the guy that I originally found because I was looking for headphone reviews and has done multiple collaborations, the first one that I'm actually an actual legit fan, is this set right here, which is just so appropriate in so many ways. Now, I might even lay it on my table a lot, but I'm going to put Zeos' logo facing down. No offense to Zeos, but I'm not advertising other influencers on my desk. But it is going to be present, and it will be available if someone says, hey, can you listen to that compared to something else? What do you think? Like, compared to the Mod House, how much am I giving up in the mids when it's compared to the Mod House? And I'll tell you that, because I'm going to keep it in my stable. So good job by Zeos. I hope that this is exactly what you wanted to come out, because it matches your tagline, so I'm assuming that it does. The comfort level is bonkers. If I do stream a thought, kind of like Zeos does. I don't script myself. If I didn't say it, I want to point out something extremely important. One of the things that I have that's a problem with headphones is a lot of them get hot. Even in the winter time, the sweat starts to build up. I was reminded of how quickly the HE6 SEV2 does that because I did this video and I use it as the reference, and it's been a little while, and it's also summertime, but this room it's not too hot, but the hair above my ears got wet after 30 minutes with this one. I listened to this several times, a couple times over an hour long, and I never felt the heat discomfort, not on the top of my head or the heat around my ears. So I don't know why, but it's a comfortable long listen in its tuning and also in its design, related to the padding, I assume. Very good set. Congrats. If you go to Can Jam, listen to something like Tupac, Papa's song, or something with a lot of low end, because give this thing, it's targeting that audience. If you're looking for that, play something like that, and then go listen to something that's got, you need those vocals, and then calculate how much you might be compromising or giving up, and determine whether or not that's something you're willing to do. For people that watch my channel and have a library like mine, I recommend it at $250. It's a really good set. So more than I expected. When you say bass violence on the size of a box, you're setting yourself up to be, you know what, that sounds great and you almost nailed it, but you did pretty good. Like, there's a lot of ways to kind of avoid that, or that's a boastful claim, and he actually nailed it. It can get quite violent, and off of a DAP, no less. And I'm out. I'm kind of glazing him out, aren't I? I'm not sorry, because it's all about the bass. It's all about the music, but come on, I'm a bass head, and I'm out.